Now, my opinion on learning mathematics or even the subject Gematmw, finding meaning from it is actually surprisingly easy because these are skills that are applied in this day and age very often, especially in things such as finance, and even surprisingly, even if you have a liberal arts degree, there is a time you will use mathematics, especially consider especially like I know liberal arts is not, not a math oriented subject, but it does not mean that the only math that you'll be using is your 1 plus 1. Far from that, in my honest opinion. Now, I really do wish to answer some guide questions in relation to mathematics. Now, first off, why is mathematics considered as a language? Now, mathematics as a language is certainly very useful. It is less like a traditional language in the sense that you give things a word and that word describes the thing. Instead, mathematics as a language is more let's take this complex equation and turn it into a set of numbers, letters, and symbols that we can more easily interpret. Now, now we move on to now we move on. The next question I'd like to answer is, how relevant is mathematics in the digital age that we now live in? Well, mathematics in the digital age is surprisingly common. It applies to a lot of things, even programming. Surprisingly, mathematics in the digital age also applies to things that we make. How do we produce this? How do we create an item in such a way that it does not break? What materials do we use? And all of that. And another question I'd like to answer is, how useful is mathematics in decision making? As someone who tends to play games that involve some degree of mathematics, I find it very useful when you're going to make a certain decision. I hope that comes through. Now, another last question I'd wish to answer is to name three words describing my experience in the course. Well, first off, I wouldn't stoop to say difficult, but it does pose a degree of difficulty, as all things do, especially when you are learning. Especially when you are learning things, you are bound to face a degree of difficulty. Now, another word that I use to describe at least part of the experience is actually patience. As someone who has a tendency to try and rush things, patience, I find, is also an important virtue. Because sometimes the work I can create is not of the best quality when I do not think. When I do not use my mind, I do not wait, take breaks just to finish something. Now, a third word I'd like to use is, surprisingly, exciting. I find this subject rather exciting since it's it ties all the way back to the difficulty factor that I experience. And now, sometimes difficulty makes things a little exciting. It's a little eccentric, but it's a little eccentric for a person like me to say, but surprisingly, it can hold true in certain contexts. Now, skipping the questions, I feel that I feel like learning mathematics is a meaningful pursuit, regardless of your other pursuits. Now, I'd like to just conclude this video for the night because it's almost 6 minutes already.